How about an American working man's beer? No, not bathtub corn mash. I'm talking Foster's, which is American for beer.
I've been saying Foster's the whole time, and they've been like, what are you talking about?
Did your Uncle Cut send you down here to tell me this little ribby joke? So after the Civil War, lots of Europeans started immigrating in the U.S., which led to beer gardens gaining a lot of popularity and a higher demand for malted beer rather than America's previous alcohol of choice up to that point, hard cider. In particular, since many of these immigrants were Germans and Bavarians, they brought with them their beer style of choice, which is served cold rather than the lukewarm British style of beer that was being served in bars before. I've gotten two conflicting reports on the first brewer/brewery in LA, but one of the dates are way before the other, so either some very credible sources are incorrect or they mean that one was the first brewery and one was the first individual brewer. So refer all your complaints to the actual historians of this city. The first brewery in LA was the New York Brewery.
Okay, that doesn't make sense.
It gets even more confusing. It was at 3rd and Main, the future home of Al Levy's Cafe, home of the oyster cocktail.
Oh, yeah.
In 1854, that's when it started by a man named either Christopher or Henry Kuhn. As you can tell, not much is really documented about this place. Other than that, it won an award in 1864 for Best Lager from who, I don't know. And it was taken over by a man named Philip Louth in 1880 and closed down in 1887. But what was made clear was that they had a competitor named Gambrinus who opened in 1856 at First in Los Angeles by John Murat. And history remembers very well that their beer was god-awful. Like, that's one thing that everyone agrees on. This brewery was sold, this gross brewery, it was sold in 1874 and moved to Second and Spring and renamed City Brewery and Saloon, but you can't rename Taste, and they closed down by 1875. Then there was the man that I've read was the city's first brewer, Jacob Philippi, who we once talked about briefly, who had a beer garden and saloon on top of the Lizard People's Fort Moore Hill. Listen to Creepy Haunted 3 for that story, which opened in 1882 and was called the New York Brewery.
What the?
I don't get it. So either history has its facts mixed up or this is the weirdest coincidence in LA history, which this was a rowdy place on top of the hill that had drunk people that would roll down the hill at the end of the night. And in 1887, it was sold to Mary Banning. So if someone has a
House?
Maybe? Is that from Animal House?
Yeah, Banning House.
Banning House is from Animal. Yeah. That's the Animal House.
They ban, the animals.
So if someone has a definitive answer on which of these New York breweries was really first, please let us know. But as it stands, there was a place called New York Brewery that either was the first brewery in Los Angeles or housed the first brewer in Los Angeles.
Or it's the farthest brewery outside of New York. That's still somehow part of New York.
They were trying to plant their flag.
It'll connect, watch. It'll all be New York one day.
New New York. But the first brewery to really start the beer industry in LA opened in 1874. As you might recall, that was the year the Vigna nephews had to sell El Aliso winery because they had blown up all their champagne.
Right.
Now for the second half of that story. The winery was sold and turned into the Philadelphia Brewing Company.
Oh my God, guys. Have a little bit of faith in Los Angeles.
The name LA just doesn't sell. It doesn't sound like
LA
Philadelphia.
beer. Who wants to say that?
Nothing. Philadelphia cream cheese. That's what we want.
If I call it LA
York
beer,
bagels.
people will think it's going to be La Beer. And I'm not drinking no lady beer.
No, I want Pa beer.
I'll have Al beer.
La Cerveza, please.